Namaste. Welcome to our monthly Satsang. I want to do a commercial before we get to questions. Unfortunately, I didn't plan ahead and I didn't keep the packaging for what I want to talk to you about. So the thing is, if you go to Amazon and you just type in the words church incense, CHURCHINCENSE, you'll get a picture of kind of like a gold foil box that you click on that and then you see how you can order it. Incense is a very important thing. Naturally, we always, when anyone thinks of Hinduism, they think of incense. Incense isn't just meant to put you in the mood. Incense is meant by the vibration to actually affect the mind and help the mind to sort of go into a higher level. And although this is called church incense, it's made by Hindus. Absolutely. I investigated it. Actually, they make some other very good kinds of incense. But people can often be bothered by various kind of aromatic ingredients. Sometimes they don't know it, but they have an allergy to it. When I lived in the Athanite monastery, I was an incense maker. And I'd make maybe 50 to 70 pounds of incense at a time. And it was based on olibanum, or frankincense. In India, they call it guggul. And this is the basic ingredient of incense. As a rule, the Russian Orthodox use nothing but guggul, just straight. But it can also have aromatics mixed with it. But as far as incense at home, you don't want to bother to have a censer where you got to have charcoal and put in frankincense on it and so on. So stick incense, which was invented in India, is a good idea. And the church incense looks like this. Sorry, I don't have the package. This is powdered frankincense, guggul. However, by its appearance, I do believe they have put some myrrh and some benzoin, also very aromatic gums, in the mixture, that they have powdered it, and in some very clever way, which I certainly don't know, they've made it in a form where they can roll the stick in it and it will adhere to the stick. This is usually bamboo, the stick part of it. And it dries and then you can light it. We might as well get very practical about it. Here we are. You let it burn a bit like this. Then you do this to extinguish flame. You don't blow on it because saliva can go out on it. So you're spitting on what you want to offer to God. So there we see how it comes. Isn't it marvelous how it really? So this, by its vibration, if nothing else, uplifts the person. But when offered, for example, right now, this camera I'm looking into to talk to you, at the top there is about a 1-inch bronze statue image of Ganesha. And so I put the palm of my left hand right at the center of heart chakra, and then I wave it around 3 times. It's been offered to the Lord, so it has not only the inherent vibrations of the gums, but now of the divine who's been honored. And that reminds me that last satsang I was asked about deities and then asked about an explanation of Ganesha. And I don't know where my mind flew away to, but somehow that didn't happen. So let's correct that. There are, of course, there's only one absolute great being. And the creator God, Ishvara, is, of course, beyond form and beyond name, really. We just put a name. Ishvara just means one who controls the universe. And we cannot conceive of these divine beings that are also divine powers. They specifically embody various powers of the infinite. And Ganesha is the remover of obstacles and the blesser or power of beginnings of any sort. So he's called Adi Deva, the first, number one God, not because he's considered greater than all the rest, but he is the one who is invoked at the beginning of things. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah. Before any kind of endeavor. In a Hindu household, as a rule, Ganapati, that means Lord of the Ganas. He is also the Lord of the spirits that move always with Shiva. They're called Ganas. Pati means Lord of the Ganas. So he's also called Ganapati as well as Ganesha. Gan Isha. Isha means Lord of the Ganas. So both Ganesh and Ganapati mean the same thing. Hope I'm not rambling too much. So anyway, usually Ganapati's figure is over the door of a house. He protects negativity, negative energies, as well as negative entities from entering that doorway. It's a good idea to have a small image of Ganesha over every doorway in your house because he is guardian and he is real. He's not a symbolic form. He is an actual being, an actual entity. Therefore, he has great value and he is invoked for protection. So this is very important. I think I've mentioned before, but I'll repeat it. In former times, we had, excuse me, weekly satsangs. This is when we lived in another state. And we would have on Thursday evenings, we'd have kind of informal satsang. And people would come, and I usually would talk about the Bhagavad Gita, and there'd be questions and so on. So I wanted a picture of Ganapati over our doorway. And so I found a good one and framed it. And I put it over the doorway and I said, Ganapatiji, please don't let anyone through this door that you don't like. So I strengthened that. I found what are called Sudarshan mantras. Sudarshan chakra is a power of Vishnu. He's usually shown as like it's a flat round disc so big. And it was actually a weapon. You went like this. It had a hole so that when you went like this, it whirled. And when you whirled and then you let go of it, and it ran, and it could be quite large, and it would cut off someone's head. So anyway, the Sudarshan chakra is considered the kind of banishment of evil power, or the exorcistic powers of right, good, and truth. So I found those mantras. And I wrote them out, and then I put them behind the photograph, the picture print of Ganesha over the door. All right, fine. Once at the time of the satsang, there were 3 or 4 people who came together. They came in through the door, but the 4th one didn't come in. He stood outside the door. And he said, well, come on in. And he just stood there. And those who observed it said that it was like he was pushing against an invisible barrier. And for a little bit, he pushed, and then suddenly he turned around, he ran back to his automobile, got in, and roared away. He was their ride. So they were not very happy. But so it was. Now, we learned later that he was involved in very, very negative esoteric practices. I want to say occult practice. That sounds too hoo-hoo. But it was things not good. Not good. And he was doing it because he had a business and he wanted to have success in the business. And this interesting type of thing, they used mantric invocations. And they were always bragging, saying, the God who answers prayers is the real God. And their idea was they said this mantra, and when they said it over and over, success would come to them. And there were groups formed where the people flocked to, and they get up and say, oh, I got $20,000 just by going so-and-so. The thing that was observed, though, was that usually within a matter of a few weeks, everything they had gained by this mantra, they would lose. It would dissolve. It would go away. But it was hideously negative. I've heard these people together doing their thing, and it produced, frankly, a hellish atmosphere. So this man could not come in. So it's nice to have a Ganesha guard you. and help you. He's not just for good luck. He's very real. And if you can find a depiction of Ganapati, either as an image or as a print, then to have him over the doorway is a very good idea. Yes, idolatry being promoted right now in, it's the 21st century now, isn't it? Yes, it's so much advanced from the century I was born in. I have trouble remembering it. So anyhow, that's Ganesha. He's real like all the other gods, and he is kind and merciful and will bless. I say merciful, but no deity particularly likes the ways of bad people. But of course, we mustn't think the wrath of God comes on them as the way the Christians think. But it really is true. There's a practical, you see, real religion has got a practical side to every bit of it. Like we have the yajna, the fire sacrifice. It isn't just an impressive rite so that there's the fire and the people are going, oh, swaha, swaha. And you feel like, oh my, that's something. Oh, it is something, but that's it. It's real. It's not symbolic. Everything in Sanatana Dharma is absolutely practical and absolutely real. There's no theory behind any of it. Reality is behind it, and it's really important to understand this. So then, this incense, by its vibration, purifies the place and uplifts it. And when it's been offered, as with Ganapati, it could be to any form of God, Jesus, Virgin Mary, then their blessing is on that, and so you light it. And wherever this smoke goes, the blessing and purification takes place. So it's a great tool of upliftment, and it isn't a symbol. There's nothing in the world that's just a symbol. A reality is behind everything. But people who don't want real religion love to talk about symbolism. And of course, there are profound symbols, such as, Durga and Ganapati, and why do they have certain arms and what are they holding? But that's not for us now. All right. Let me get to our questions. This is very long, but it's someone who finds that they're raised in a traditional Christian background and is still drawn to that, which is perfectly good. You see, Sanatana Dharma embraces everything. It is the religion of religions. It is the great umbrella under which all other religions are. They're all partial, but Sanatana Dharma is complete, but partial is good too. So, if we've been raised in a superstitious religion, it says God will send you to hell if you don't think like we do, and you don't do what we do. Well, you've just got to figure whether you're going to drop that nonsense or not. And if you don't believe it, or if you're afraid it might be true, well, then fine, follow it. Grovel, and let the superstition run your life. It's up to you, not me. I couldn't care less. So, people say, I feel, well, how can I say this is true, that's true, and so on. You know what I want to say? I don't mean as in a nasty way, but grow up. Become an adult, not just in your body, but in your mind and in your life. And if you choose to say, oh, I'm nuts to Indian ideas and I'll just stick with Christianity, fine, that's good. But why torment yourself? And it's true, you can be drawn toward different spiritual paths because you followed them in previous lives. And they're all good. And you can do them all at once if you want to, or you can just choose one and go. Understand, thou art that, Tatvamasi. God is seated right here in your heart. You can't offend God. How could an infinite being be offended at what someone like you and I do? Absurd. We don't need forgiveness because God doesn't hold anything against us. So then, do it all together or just choose one, whichever you like. Or do one tradition for a while and then do another. Only the manipulative people say, well, you've got to decide what you're going to do. You can't go in two boats at the same time, feet in two boats at the same time. Of course you can if you've got the skill. Thou art that. Don't let any bully tell you what your spiritual life is going to be. And if my intense speaking seems to be bullying, well, don't pay any attention to me either. So this is very, very, very important. God is one. You are one. You don't have to worry, oh, I might be mixing this and stuff. Why, there's a joke about a man had a violin, and all he did was sit and with the bow and go, drove his wife crazy. And she said, why don't you play different notes? Why don't you do something? He said, well, she said, like everybody else. He said, well, they're looking for it, but I found the note. So some people should be dedicated to just one thing, and others, yes, a smorgasbord in spiritual life is fine. It's fun too, by the way. So then, don't let religion replace God in your life. And don't let a religious authority replace God in your life. You're that. God knows your heart. God knows your soul. So you just quietly, you yourself, you pray. And then you decide what your intuition tells you. And of course you can say, many people say it's just a feeling. Well, of course, that's what intuition is. And then you follow it. And if you decide you're going to do something different a day or two later, do it. Do it. There's no place for cowards in spiritual life, I'll tell you that. And no pretense at modesty. Oh, how could I? Who am I? I'll tell you who you are. You're a living part of God's own consciousness. So, there's a, forgive me. There is a particular piece of music. Oh, Mahler's Second Symphony, where at one point this choir sings, "Stop trembling and get ready to live." It's a good idea. Yes. So then, do what you feel like doing, and nobody else's opinion matters. You and God. That's reality. Let the other people and the meddlers in your life go their way. So please do not worry. God won't hate you for anything. And since God is everything, God's not going to complain. Okay, I took a long time on that, but forgive me. Okay. This is a person who has a lot of problems with doing yogic practices that deal with certain physical exercises or breathing and so on. Do what you can do and offer it to God. Then it will be perfectly all right. That's awfully simplistic, but it's simple. After all, God's simple. God's only one. All right. Here is someone, I'm sorry, it's not described very clearly. So it talks about feelings of discontent. And I'm sorry, dear friend, I don't feel I can answer because I'm not sure exactly what you mean by it. And therefore, I don't think that I understand enough to answer. Yes. No. Fine. All right. Excuse me, I just want to check something. Okay, bye. Would eating fish be a blemish on the character or personality of a sannyasi? Isn't it necessary to be a vegetarian? Okay. When you eat something, you see everything has many layers. It has the physical atomic matter level, and then it has subtle energy levels, prana. And everything that exists has 5 levels or koshas or bodies, even inanimate things. Now, in inanimate matter, it's not activated, but it's there potentially, all right? So the food you eat doesn't just go to build the cells in your body, but it also goes into the field of your mind. And the subtle energies of the food becomes your mental energies. The way you think, well, I don't want to be a potato or a carrot. But you see, potatoes and carrots, you don't have an active mind. Therefore, the subtle energies, the manasic energies, and the potato and the carrot, it goes into your mental body, and however you want it to work, it works. However you want to affect it and use it, it does. So there it is. But when it's animal, you don't just eat a chicken's leg, you eat a chicken's mind. You want the mind of a chicken? There was a man, he was studying to be a psychologist, and he worked in a restaurant. And he noticed that people had personalities reflecting the dominant kind of meat they ate. The people who ate chickens were sort of, yes, you know how chickens are. And those who ate beef, they were like that. And those that ate a lot of fish, well, they were virtually unconscious. They were asleep awake. And that's because you're taking that mind and you're grafting it on. Would you like to graft an animal's brain onto your brain? Well, when you eat any animal thing, that's what you're doing. Vegetables and fruits, they have a pure life energy. And therefore, also, as you eat the food, according to the way you will to think, that energy will be affected and begin to vibrate accordingly. So, don't worry, you won't have a potato's mind. It'll be your mind. The basic energies being supported by the energies of that food. All right. So, we know the rules in Sanatana Dharma for a sannyasi. So, eating anything, any animal thing, is contrary to what a sannyasi is supposed to be doing. So he is harming himself. It's not a matter that devas will say, well, look at what he did. It's nice to think that God and the angels are just getting all upset about what you and I do or don't do, but you want to know something? They just plain don't care. And wise sadhakas just plain don't care about what other people do. I don't mean they don't think a murderer isn't doing wrong, but they don't get all upset because, well, what can they do about it? They can go become a policeman, but so isn't it necessary to be a vegetarian? Well, it depends on what you want. If you want to fully transform your consciousness and you fully transform your life, being a vegetarian is helpful, but that's not spiritual life. And there have been murderers that have been vegetarians. There have been murderers that are kind to animals. So we can't be simplistic about these things. We are very complex. We're as complex as the world is. So that's what yoga sadhana is all about. It clarifies our minds so we get the focus and we see. All right. What is the point in worshiping the divine forms as God? Do they have any existence apart from the imagination? Well, that'll depend on the individual. Some will say, yeah, it's just ideas in the head. Some will say, no, they're divinely revealed. I personally believe that the form of the deities in Sanatana Dharma are genuine, and the great rishis saw them, dealt with them, communicated with them. And I've seen that this is true when I've been in Bharat and when I've gone to temples and so on. These are not imaginations, they're not thought forms. They're genuine beings. That's my experience. If it isn't yours, then why should you accept mine? The idea that you say, oh, they're just all imagination. Who in God's name are you to say that a deity is just something of somebody's imagination? It may be that way for you, but perhaps you're really lacking the necessary perception to see that it isn't just imagination. There's our problem. See, a child thinks the food I eat, everybody ought to like to eat. The food I don't like, nobody ought to eat it. That's the way a child does it. There's no use to even think about being a true human being if you've not gotten beyond the child stage. So then, since the reality and goal is pure consciousness, does it distract our attention from the truth? Do you really know how to put your mind in pure consciousness? Can you just stop right now and suddenly enter pure consciousness? You can get quiet. You might fall asleep. So, what do you have to do with pure consciousness? How do you know? I'm serious. To this high thing we must hold. High and low are dualities, and so you're bound in duality if you engage in that kind of thinking. All right? Is a Saguna worship meant for developing concentration? It can, and it can also be a total waste of mind. And it can also be the way to communicate the Deva world and get great blessings. See, there is no, this is it, and there's no other rule, and there's no other way, and there's no other result. If you like that and it entertains you, go ahead, but it is false. Okay, where are we now? How are Kundalini and pure consciousness related? Frankly, friend, I don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. It's all theory, mostly tantric, and I haven't seen that it has any relevance in any way. But this I know. Those who raise the Kundalini And those who are all mentioning Kundalini, one, I find they're egotistical and selfish. They're not seeking for truth. They're seeking for power. And power is what you use in relation to other people. So they're usually manipulators as well. I mean, they think, I wish I could just heal the sick by touching. Well, sure. Then everyone say, just think, her very touch heals people. Yeah. So, anyway, certainly worship of form can be an exercise in concentration and so on. But if it's not an act of communication, of literally seeing beyond the form into the reality that is behind the form. Afterwards, I'm using a word. I say hand. Is it a hand? No, this is a hand. So you see, you've got to get beyond symbol into what is symbolized. That's very, very important to realize. Okay, how are Kundalini and pure consciousness related? Well, some yogis I've known have said Kundalini is itself pure consciousness. Others say no, Kundalini is Shakti. Everything is formed of divine consciousness and everything is formed of Shakti. So both are true. Does a seeker have to bother about Kundalini? No. If they are naturally interested, fine. If they're not, then not. Do you believe Krishna to be a real person who came to earth and spoke the Bhagavad Gita, or do you hold the Gita as purely symbolic? Well, my believing something doesn't make it true, but I believe Krishna was an actual being. I believe he was a divine manifestation. He was a manifestation of the infinite consciousness in a Chinmaya body. It can look and act and seem like a material, but that essentially he was divine consciousness appearing in the world. And he was a savior, that is, his touch could save. That was proved many times. And mostly important, he was a great divine spiritual teacher. And we have his teachings in the Bhagavad Gita. But if nothing in you responds to the form or even the ideas of Krishna, then it's all right. Because again, Tattvamasi, you're that. Not Krishna Twamasi, you're Krishna. So then, it will be according to each individual karma and samskara. And that's, you see, you're the beginning and you're the middle and you're the end of it. Therefore, the most important statement is in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, become a yogi. I will tell you this, if you're not a yogi, you're never going to really know anything. You're going to believe a lot of things and act on a lot of things, but you're not going to know anything. But that's my way of seeing it. So no, I don't think it's purely symbolic. I believe every word in the Gita is true, that it should be a daily study, that it is the number one spiritual text in the world. Not the only one that should be read and studied. No, of course not. But it is the most perfect, in 700 verses, the most perfect presentation of rounded out, complete spiritual life that we can find. All right. Excuse me, I keep trying to look at the time. In Gaudia and other Vaishnava traditions, lots of luck with Gaudia. The view seems to be, I'm just letting you know how I feel. The view seems to be the devoted Bhakta eventually goes to Vaikuntha to be eternally with the Lord. So do the Christians. And shall we ever be with the Lord? It's right in the Bible. Whereas they believe the lesser Advaita way of doing things will leave the Advaitin to merge with the void Brahman. Horrors! Instead of enjoying Vaikuntha. Are you going to be a spiritual tourist all the lifetimes? On the other hand, Advaita Vedanta seems to advocate that all will essentially merge with Brahman regardless of the path. We're one with Brahman right now. It either just gets realized, that's why we use the word self-realization. You don't become the self. You don't become centered in the self. How could you get out of the self? You are the self. You're nothing but the self. So the thing is, you're it right now, and you have to awaken. You have to wake up. Einstein was a great scientist, but I have an idea that when he slept, especially in deep sleep, he was just as ignorant as anybody else. He had to wake up, and then his mind was operative. So it is with us. That's why sadhana is the essence. So I'm feeling somewhat lost in the big city of the Hinduism. I understand it. The thing is, it's just like if you go to a restaurant, you choose from the menu what you eat. Sanatana Dharma is vast, and it's for everyone. And it also is intended for you to pick and choose. Oh no, we must take in the whole revelation. Lots of luck. Who but God is able to take in the whole revelation? So you see, we follow according to the level where we are. And that's why Sanatana Dharma is so wonderful, because it's absolute dualism, it's qualified non-dualism, and it's absolute non-dualism. Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Advaita. They're all true, and they're none of them true if they're just words, and they're just formulas, and they're just concepts. It's to help you and I get through the maze that we have these things. But we ourselves are a transcendent being greater than any mere philosophical concept. Believing something wise doesn't really make you a wise person, and believing something stupid doesn't make you a stupid person. So the thing is, you don't have to take it all in, and you don't have to believe it all. You just look, and what vibrates to you, and you vibrate to it. You understand, you're a divine being. You're not a nothing. You're not just a little speck. Therefore, who can lead your spiritual life but you? These teachers can't, these external gurus. Oh, Guruji is in your heart all the time. And oh, then the guru that says, oh, don't worry, I've already done all this meditation for you. Run for your life from those kind of people. And run for your life from the guru slaves. Guru is supposed to set you free, not make you a slave. And look how ignorant and narrow they are. It's like, no, it's just one. It can't be two. Oh, really? Oh, really? How amazing. I remember a man, a very intelligent man, saying, the thing that amazes me most about religion is how they always try to tell God what he can and cannot do. There. So anyway, all right. Are a personal God and the impersonal Brahman on the same level? Well, there's only one. Or is one more ultimate than the other? Well, you know what? Here is an array of medicines. They're all good and they all work, but it depends on what your illness is as to which one you'll take. That's why you've got to develop independence in your spiritual life. And so you make a mistake. Oh, I followed a false path. My friends, we've lived dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of lives. And take a chance, take a chance. Learn. See, that's it. People think, they don't realize you learn, you think, you look at something, you ponder it. You say, what if I make the wrong choice? Well, you'll find out and then you'll learn from it. You see, you learn from your mistakes as much as you learn from the right things you do. Again, thou art that, thou art that, thou art that. Nobody has any business to deny that. No one has any right to take that away from you. Okay, fine. So again, the personal, impersonal, one can't be more ultimate than the other because they're only one. You and I see it as duality, but that's our limitation. Okay. Strong creatures eat weaker ones day and night. How can one say God is great? The world is seen to be very painful. If God is the creator, why did he create like this? Well, I don't want to sound like some of the right-wingers, but for example, have you heard the expression, guns don't kill people, people kill people? Isn't it so? See, to blame God for everything is an easy way out, but it's a very stupid way out. So this is the way it happens. This is samsara. Part of samsara is you're supposed to say, what was this? I don't want any of this. Because you're not this. You came into this world and you forgot yourself. And you're wandering around banging into things, and it's not your fault. You're not bad, you're not evil, you're not sinful. And you need to find the way through the maze. And every person finds their own way through the maze. People can give us some spiritual advice. I don't say we don't pay attention to it. But please understand. You're a divine being, even if you don't realize it. So unravel the mystery. And I'll tell you this, if you don't ultimately become a yogi, you'll never unravel it. And so, well, there you are. That's, of course, just my opinion. But there's no need to talk. That's just the way it is. It's like saying, oh, Charlemagne was a dingbat. Charlemagne wanted to read and write. Well, if you and I wanted to read and write, what would we do? Well, we'd find a teacher. We'd say, will you teach me to read? Will you teach me to write? But he didn't. He slept with pen and ink and paper. Every night. It was right there by his bed. He believed, we'll see how belief got where it got him. He believed one day he'd wake up and he'd be able to read and write. Now, if that's not a damn fool, you tell me what is. So Charlemagne wasn't particularly great. It means Charles the Great. Fine. So you see, This is a maze, the world, and we've got to run to get through it. And thinking, why did God do this? Why did God not do that? Why? Forget God. You're the problem that you have to solve. That's the real truth. That's why people would come to Sri Ramakrishna and say, I am an atheist. I don't believe in God. And he would say, that is a stage on the way also. Because you see, we have blind, ignorant belief. So sometimes we've got to shed it and say, oh, well, it's all lies, it's all nothing, and so on. If that's what it takes to free your mind from that, fine. Believe nothing. And then in time, you will be able to believe or know, that's most important, what is true and what is not true. You see? People that get worried, oh, I have this friend and so on. My best friend, I had to watch him destroy himself. Watch him destroy himself with drugs, with sex, with negative behavior. There wasn't anything I could do. I never cut off. I never said, oh, well, I don't want to associate with a bad person. But I knew I couldn't do anything. Because each individual has to take charge of their life and their mind. Surrendering to Sri Guru is becoming an infant. It's worthless. Okay, fine. If I kill another person for money and feel good about it and believe I'm right, does that mean I have no bad karma? Well, in my opinion, it doesn't, but if you want to try it, you can try it. If I cheat another person for money and believe it's justified and I'm right, does it mean I have no bad karma? Well, not in my opinion, but frankly, the only opinion that matters in this is you. So, act. See, think, conclude, act. Since there is a law of cause and effect, or the law of karma, is it still necessary to pray and ask God for something like world peace, elimination of our financial problems, good health, etc.? All those options are given to you. You're supposed to use them. You choose. If God fulfills or answers one's prayer, does it not mean that God's breaking the law he himself has created? I don't know. Does it? You see, there's higher levels and lower levels of something. For example, I'm sitting here. The house gets on fire. I can't live and still sit here. So, something were changed. Things have changed. It wasn't on fire, now it is on fire. So, it's what I do. What I do. You understand? It's always in your hand. So, in a sense, karma is only in your mind, and in another sense, it isn't just only in your mind. You've just got to learn to work with this fluidic situation, you see? So, thinking you're right doesn't make you right, and thinking you're wrong doesn't make you wrong. So, as it is, so it is. Action, reaction. Know that. You can say, oh, it's not wrong to do that, or oh, it's wrong to do that. It's going to come to you according to what is the reality of the situation, not what you think about it. That's very, very important. Like, I can think that this is sulfuric acid, and if I sprinkle it on myself or I drink it, then I may die. But you know, it isn't sulfuric acid, it's water. Part of life is figuring it out. We all want a teacher that will give us all the answers. But you see, I remember very well Virginia McCombs. Oh, was she stupid. She was a cousin of mine, of course, because in our little hometown, all us Kentuckians were cousins of some sort. So there was poor Virginia in school. Virginia always talked like this. And so, anyway, we were in the third grade. So there was the horror of mathematics. And so we're doing our stuff, something aside. And the teacher came and said, Virginia, bring your math book here to me, or arithmetic book. So she went up and she looked, and someone had in pencil written all the answers to the printed song. And she said, what's this? My sister wrote them in to help me with my arithmetic. Well, it didn't work. It didn't work for Virginia. You see, ignorance is not an excuse for anything. But there you were. And so there, my guru told me, well, I read it in the Word of God. Yes. My grandma told me on and on and on and on and on. As an excuse. The question is, what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? And you need to ask that to yourself. So, first of all, why assume that through the law of karma you could get things such as world peace? And so where's the premise on if God fulfills or answers on prayer does not mean God's breaking the law himself was created? What do you mean? God obviously put in the law, and this can just be changed anytime I want to. And this doesn't apply anytime I want to. I don't say it does, but, Okay, fine. Almost there. Can I follow the right path without a guru to initiate me and guide me? God is the ultimate guru. But there are what are called upagurus, auxiliary, say assistant gurus, that can teach you and can help you, but you also can outgrow that. For example, you learned basically how to read and write, or at least print, in the first grade. You didn't stay in the first grade. Then you went to another grade and you built on what you had learned. And that was how you grew and how you learned. So, sometimes you need a guide and sometimes you don't need a guide. Yes, there. How can someone live without desire in the world today? Well, by one, being completely half-witted, or being completely mentally numb, or be absolutely fulfilled in the complete knowledge of their own divine self. Then they can indeed live without desire in the world. That's just one of the ways it can happen. If everyone presently on this planet did not take birth again because they had attained liberation, does that mean the planet would be empty of human beings, but only be occupied by flora and fauna? Is this condition possible? Do you care? It's kind of true in a way. Almost anything you can think of can, on some situation, be actual. But, well, that's not how it is now. And that's where you and I are at now, so why would we think of anything else? Yes, what if something happened and all life was wiped out on the earth? Well, do you really think that the Creator mothers, because See, creation's not done. I know they try to say so by the one and only God. But the matrikas, the mothers, they created all this. By the way, the Bible is with me because you see, in the Bible it says, God said, let us make man in our own image. The word is Elohim. It's plural, and guess what? It's feminine. Yeah. So just think, the Hebrew of the Bible itself supports the heathen Hindu view that the world was created by mothers, the matrikas. So they did it. And they'll keep taking care of it. So we don't need to think of things that might be problematic. Our daily life is problematic enough. So, we've actually come to the end of our time. One nice thing is if it gets tiresome, what I'm saying and doing, you can always just turn it off. So I could read the next question and say, find out next month. But I wouldn't want you to be able to not sleep at night because you couldn't figure out the answer to the question. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Let me tell you a little bit about astrology. Astrology is absolutely real, absolutely true. And our birth sign tells a great deal about our basic personality. But the sign that was on the horizon when we were born, that tells the character of our mind, the so-called ascendant or rising sign. And I am living proof of the validity of that principle because when I was born, Gemini, literally, they delayed my birth at the direction of the doctor. It's too long to go into. My mother suffered horribly. And they didn't let me be born until literally not even the whole degree, but the zero beginning degree of Gemini came on the horizon. They didn't do this knowingly, of course. Then they let me be born. And Gemini rising people have their minds everywhere, all over the place at the same time. It's just the way they do it. I remember there used to be, and I hope it's still there, a remarkable place in Los Angeles called the First Temple and College of Astrology. It was in a neighborhood. It was what looked like it was a big old backwoods Protestant church. Didn't even have, the paint was gone from it even. There was, you walked down the street and then you went through a break in the hedge and then you found this thing there. Heaven knows how it got there. And so you'd go in and they had marvelous classes on astrology. And every week they had a class on what they call mundane astrology. That means the astrology of the world and the events of the world. And one of the most brilliant of their teachers, then it was a huge blackboard across the front. And she would have the astrological wheel of that time, that very time, the noon time actually of that day. And it would show the coming events, and she could say, this is happening, this means this will happen this coming week. And we would literally get the news of the week in that 1 hour. And then the next week, she'd recap and say, remember this aspect, see, it happened according to this and those. She would cite then what was really in the news that had proved it was so. So then we get all worried about it and say, oh, what if there's no free will? Well, why don't you levitate? You can't. So your will doesn't mean much, does it? Can you get well when you're sick by willing it? I'm not talking about affirmations. That's another story. No. You know, Jesus said, can you grow this much just by wanting to? No. As it is, so it is. And that's one of the things we're put here to find out. What is it? And how does it work? And for example, astrology is one of the most important knowledges that we can have to start figuring out. But Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, is especially the tool, and yoga, to not only figure out the way it works, but to control and take charge and have it work according to our judgment. Realizing that, of course, if we make a wrong judgment, well, things won't go so fine. But you know, you've been dumped right here in the middle of it all, so why talk about options? You're here. I'm here. So, since I've gone 7 minutes over the time, why don't I do what a primary school child might call get gone and say, Namaste, Namaste.